Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and another Christmas card series in 2025. Today we are using a set that if you've watched any of my other videos, this will look familiar. This is the ornament set from Pinkfresh Studio. This has a die, a stencil, a foil plate, and a stamp. And what's beautiful about this is that the stamp is all one piece, the die is all one piece, the foil plate is all one piece. And that and the stencils stencil everything in one go. So as far as like mass producing and making a bulk batch of things, like that is the way to go. Anytime that you can cut steps out, you don't have to place multiple things down, multiple dies, multiple stamps, that kind of thing, that will always save you time. Having some sort of stamp positioning tool will also save you time. So you're not having to eyeball things, re-stamp things because you didn't stamp it correctly the first time and then it gets off. So I like to use my mini MISTI here. I have some A2 size card panels here. These are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I have placed that single stamp set into my mini MISTI, and I'm going to do some heat embossing. I originally planned to do gold, but I changed my mind and decided I hadn't used my silver in quite some time, so I thought that would be a good change of pace. So I have some VERSAMARK ink here and my anti-static powder tool from Simon Says Stamp. I also have some Ranger silver embossing powder. This is a nice fine detail silver embossing powder. This silver is very like shiny silver, like shiny gray. I know some silvers are almost, they have kind of a strange tinge to them, and this is a very true, beautiful silver. But use whatever you've got in your stash, and you don't even have to heat emboss. If you wanted to cut out that step, or maybe heat embossing is not your jam, you just don't want to fool with it, whatever, just stamp it in a nice gray color. That will give the illusion of it being in embossing ink. I have several panels of, again, A2 sized colored cardstock here. I get all of my colored cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse. I have found that for me, at least, that is the most economical, and I am pleased with the quality. So I will list the colors that I know. So from Colorplan, I have Amethyst, Sapphire, Racing Green, and Claret maybe? I don't know how to pronounce things. And then from Lessebo, I have Evergreen and Amazon. And I just cut those down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I thought I was originally going to do like a full panel, card front panel, but I do end up cutting those down later on. So I am treating this with my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to ink this up with the VERSAMARK ink. And then I have a piece of scratch paper off to my right hand side there, and that's what I'm going to use to kind of dump the embossing powder onto our panels and spread that around. I know some people use coffee filters, some people use, and I have used those in the past, but a scratch piece of paper is just fine. I'm using a little pressure tool that I got from Stampin' Bug. I believe she had an Etsy shop. I think she still does, but that's where I got that from. It's kind of well, it's not that hard to see, but my stamp was very dirty. My daughter had played with this, and so if I was going to be doing clear embossing or white embossing or some sort of pearly color, this stamp being dirty would be a problem. But because I'm going to put a metallic over this, it's not that big a deal. I did have my fan going. I recommend you turn your fans off if you're going to be heat embossing, because I ended up having like embossing powder absolutely everywhere. So turn your fans off, word to the wise. So I'm just going to sprinkle this embossing powder all over this. I found that I really didn't have to heat emboss these like twice, as far as like heat emboss them and then stamp them again to apply powder because I missed a spot. I was pretty safe, and that's where the MISTI came in clutch. I am going to go through and just do everything in batches. So you saw where I created all of my card bases. Those are just A2 size card bases, and I made all of those at one time. I cut all of the colored cardstock at one time. I'm going to heat emboss all at one time. Anytime you do one step in its completion, its entirety, that will save you time as far as mass production goes, as opposed to taking everything, like making one card at a time from start to finish and then starting all over again. That will take you way more time than if you do things in batches. I don't know if you can hear my dog like licking or slurping. I don't even know what he's doing, but I apologize if you can hear that on this video. He's a licker. He is a licker. Okay, so I'm just sprinkling this embossing powder on. I'm going to tap off the excess and just rinse and repeat until I've got all of these coated in embossing powder. Once that was done, I wanted to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of interest to the background. So I have this Trinity Stamps vintage tin tile foil plate, and I'm not going to do any foiling, although you very well could. And then I also have this Spellbinders geometric flower background. Again, that is a foil plate, but I'm not going to foil. I'm going to show you a way to kind of stretch your supplies and maybe use something that gets kind of forgotten in your stash. I don't do a whole lot of foiling, but I do enjoy the results when I do it. But I did not want to pull out another machine. I didn't want to pull out more products. So this was a way to add some texture without having to pull out a whole bunch of more stuff. So I have that gray mat there is actually rubbery, and that is what I'm going to lay my cardstock on. So for my Spellbinders Platinum machine, I need the A plate, the B plate. I need this rubbery gray mat, which I think is like C, maybe. And then the D plate is the adapter plate here, and that is that solid gray plate. So I put on top of the gray rubbery mat, I put the paper, and then I put the foil plate on top of that, and then the D plate, which is the hard plate, on top of that. And then I run that through my die cut machine. I didn't spray these with water. I typically do, but I wasn't terribly worried about these cracking because I had a feeling that they were not going to crack, and they did not. But you get some beautiful texture. Both the front and the back have beautiful, beautiful texture. So I picked 8 different colors of cardstock, and I cut out just 4 card front panels from each of them. So I end up having 32 cards that we'll make in today's video. And I split those off in half. So I had 2 of each color, and I ran 2 of each color through each of those plates. So there is going to be a total of 16, 2 of each color that have the vintage tin tile from Trinity Stamps, and then 2 of each color, so a 16 total with the geometric flower background from Spellbinders. So once all of those are ran through, I also die cut all of those ornaments out. That die is one entire die, so it cuts everything out in one go, which is glorious. Now it is time to work on our sentiments. I really did not want to heat emboss these sentiments again, although you very well could. So this is what I'm showing you as a little trick. So to make these look like they were stamped in a metallic ink of some variety, or an ink that is similar to the embossing powder, I'm just stamping these in a gray ink. This is Simon Says stamp EARL, and it matched the tone of the Ranger embossing powder pretty darn close. It's just not shiny, but it reads like a metallic because it is next to that heat embossing. So that is a way to save yourself some time, is just stamp. Don't fool with the embossing. Just stamp it in an ink that looks maybe metallic. So Stardust from Concord and Ninth looks gold. So that's another option for you. So I just had scraps of, this is HAMMERMILL cardstock. I also did my heat embossing on HAMMERMILL cardstock. I don't think I mentioned that. But this is HAMMERMILL cardstock, and I am just going to stamp all of my greetings out at one time. I found that as I kept going, my stamp, it was acting weird. It was almost like resisting the ink, which is the opposite of what normally happens whenever you heat emboss, stamp multiple times and season your stamp, is it stamps better. But this was almost like bubbling up on the surface. It was kind of strange. So some of these I did end up having to stamp twice. That may be user error. I think my ink pad is still super juicy from the last time I inked it, so it may just be repelling because there was just too much ink there. That is also quite possible. So I'm just going to go through and stamp all of my sentiments at one time. Now, these do have a coordinating die, and I did use the coordinating die. However, the coordinating die cut each individual word out. So if you wanted to save yourself some time, the stamp is one continual stamp, but the die cut each individual word out. So if you wanted to save yourself some time, I would just recommend either, I would recommend stamping that in one solid go and using like a sentiment banner die to cut it out. So as you see, I have all my pieces parts out. I did trim down those panels a little bit, and this is a die set. I think this is from Lawn Fawn. If you happen to know what this is from, please let me know in the comments below. But it's an ornament die set. I've had it in my stash for many, many moons. And I just cut that out from this brushed silver metallic cardstock from Altenew, which is a beautiful, like, silvery color. It's beautiful. I've been really pleased with this metallic cardstock I've been getting from Altenew. It's really, really pretty. So as you see here, I'm going to tell you what to do and don't do what I'm actually doing here. So I have all my pieces parts, I have all my greetings, I have all my little ornament hangers, all of my cardstock panels are cut down. I end up cutting those down to 3 3/4 by 5. I used my big industrial paper cutter, and I must not have had those in straight because they were like all kinds of crooked. So I ended up having to go back and cut them down by hand using just a regular paper trimmer. So that's why they got a little bit smaller than I had originally intended. So here you see that I have laid out just the toppers. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. But don't do what I'm doing right here. So what I found as I got going was it was much smarter, and I got a layout that I was much more pleased with if I laid out the ornaments themselves first. Again, y'all, I don't know what I was thinking. This was bananas crazy. I'm just using a little bit of glue from my little glue press here to put just the tiniest bit of glue behind these little ornament hangers. And then I'm going to lay them across, and I'm trying to stagger the hangers so we don't have everything kind of on one line, because that can look kind of, for lack of better words, boring. So I am trying to kind of spread those out and just kind of give the card fronts a little more interest visually. But again, when you do this, it is smarter to go through and find a layout that you like. So lay the ornaments down in a pattern that you like. Once you find that, then repeat that until you either run out or you've completed all the projects that you want to make. Then come back and add your hangers. Because I found that my distribution, spreading them out. Distribution, is that the word I'm looking for? I don't even know. Was not quite like I would want it to be. And I was like, I don't really know where I'm going to put my sentiment on here. So lay your ornaments out first. Repeat that layout. If you love that layout, then repeat it. There's nothing wrong with that. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. I found a layout that I really, really liked, and there's an ornament in here that I really like its shape. I think it's really pretty. And it's very unique, and I wanted to use that one for sure on all of these cards, and so I did. So it's okay to find a layout you like. If there's a specific product or a specific piece of a stamp set that you really, really like, then use it. Use it again and again. There is nothing wrong with that. You are supposed to be in this hobby because it's something you enjoy, something that you find peace in or relaxation in, an outlet for you. Then use what you've got and use it how you want to use it. There is no one that's going to come in your house and tell you not to. And if they do, tell them to leave. So I glued down all of those ornaments. I glued down everything flat to the card. Just using some liquid glue, I glued everything down flat. These are going to more than likely be hand delivered, but in case they were going through the mail, this is a really simple way to ensure that you don't have to have extra postage. I glued those down flat to the card base. I glued my sentiment down flat, and then I went ahead and folded everything, and then I took these downstairs and finished these all off screen. There are pictures in the video to show you kind of what I did, but this is the card complete. I appreciate you spending time with me. I hope you felt inspired and learned some tips and tricks, and we will see you next time.